Good afternoon. This is Mrs. Jacobs, and I will be showing you today GoMath Grade 4, Chapter 1, Lesson 1.3, Comparing and Ordering Numbers, which is standard 4.NBT.2. So the learning target is I can compare and order numbers. Comparison symbols are the symbols we use to compare numbers. Later on, we'll get to fractions and even decimals. So how can I compare and order numbers? First, we're going to review the comparison symbols that we use to compare. First, we have this symbol here. It's called is greater than. And then we have is less than. And of course, is equal to. So let's look at the greater sign. And a way for children to understand this is because sometimes they do get confused on which way the symbol is supposed to go, is we use the symbols to represent alligators, and alligators like to eat the bigger quantity, which would be the largest amount. So we're teaching kids to make sure that the opening of the mouth faces the larger number. Okay? So that will help with the confusion of which way it would go. And then we need, of course, to help children learn how to read these comparisons. Okay? Equal to means that on both sides of the equals sign, the values are the same. Okay, and of course the less than symbol refers that the number that we're comparing is less than the other. Okay, so we're going to get some practice using these symbols and reading the comparisons as well. So the first strategy that I will introduce today is using a place value chart. So when comparing two or more numbers, you can write each number you are comparing into the place value chart. Okay? And I will show that strategy in a minute. However, the most important thing to remember when comparing numbers is that you must start from the greatest place value. So when we start comparing, we have to look at those numbers and we have to go to the largest or greatest place value when we start comparing. Some mistakes that children make are to think that we start at the ones place when we compare numbers. However, this is not the truth. We have to start from the greatest one. Okay, and I will show you why. All right, so let's continue, and I will show you the first strategy using a place value chart. So here I have two numbers that I want to compare, okay, and I'm not going to read those numbers to you because let's say if you didn't know how, all right, or you forgot, it doesn't mean that you still can't compare them if you know something about place value, okay. So we are going to enter these two numbers into the place value chart, and we're going to write them one underneath the other. So I'm going to take the first number, and I'm going to write that in the chart. So I have 9, 8, 3. Okay, sorry about this 9 here. And then I'm going to place the next number directly underneath it. Okay. So now looking at this place value chart, remember we're starting to compare all the way to the left, which is the largest place value. In this case, both of our numbers go to the 10,000s place. So this is where we'll be starting to compare. All right. And we will not be comparing at the ones. First of all, if we did that, they both have a 9. And if we move to the tens, we're saying that the second number would be greater. But let me show you how that's not true. Okay? So when we're looking at this number, we're looking at now the 10,000s place. And this is where we start comparing. And we notice that their values are the same because they have the same digit. So there's a 5 in the 10,000s place and a 5 in the 10,000s place. So those values are equal, right? They're both worth 50,000. Now I move over, okay, and now I can start moving down, and that brings me to the thousands place. And again, we see that there are 2 sevens, right? So their values are the same. They're both worth 7,000. So you keep moving down to the next place till you find a place that you can actually compare and find a difference. So now we move to the hundreds place, and we do notice a change. We have the 3 here, the digit 3, and a digit 2, right? So the value of the 3 is 300, and the 2, the value is 200. And we know that 300 is greater than 200. So I know that this number here is the greatest, is greater, right? So now I have to make sure that I am writing my symbol the correct way. So when I want to read this now, I will read it to you. I have to make sure that the opening of the symbol is facing the greater number. Okay? And now I read it from left to right, and it says 57,389 is greater than 57,299. All right, so now we're just going to use a strategy to even compare two larger numbers. Again, first place them in the place value chart. And I am putting one digit in each place. Okay, then I will enter the other number. Okay, and again, I start at the greatest place value. In this case is the 100,000s place. Okay, and I notice they're both 6s. They have the same value. But when I get to the 10,000s place, this is where I see the values change. So there's a 7 in the 10,000s place. So that's 70,000. And the 8 in the 10,000s place is 80,000. So we know that 7 is less than 8. So this number here will be less. Okay? So when I put my symbol in, I have to use the less than symbol. And the less than symbol, right, makes the mouth open to the larger number. Okay? So the larger number happens to be 687,932. So I make sure that the symbol is facing that way. And I read this from left to right as 678,932 is less than 687,932. So that was using a place value chart. Now I'm going to introduce one other strategy, and it's just if you know how to read numbers and you read the numbers and chunk it together, you can identify greater and less than or equal to. So for example, I want to compare 45,073 and 45,100. 187. So how could I use this strategy? Well, just by reading it, I noticed that they both had a 45,000, right? And that means they're equal as of right now. But now I'm going to compare the chunk, right? I'm going to chunk this, and I'm going to see and just focus on those numbers, right? So we're breaking it down. So now I see 73 and 187. And I know that 187, I'm going to do G for greater, is the greater number. And this makes this the lesser number. So now I put my symbol to open up and face the greater number. Okay. Next one, 123,456, or 99,999. So again, I'm going to look at this, which is 123,000. This here is only 99,000. So I already know that 123,000 is greater than 99,000. So that's what we mean by chunking. Okay? And it's a good strategy to help us compare more quickly. Another thing that I noticed about this last example, though, is that this number here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 6-digit number. And this number here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is a 5-digit number. So we can say, okay, that a 6-digit number will always be greater than a 5-digit number. It has more place. It has more place value. Okay. All right. So the last thing that we might be asked to do is the ordering part, and ordering numbers from least to greatest or greatest to least. All right. And again, the most important part here is read directions carefully and make sure which order is being asked of you. So here I have a chart of 5 animals and their weights in pounds. And I would like to order these animals in order from, let's say, least to greatest. So if I want to list these animals in order from least to greatest, I'm going to use the animals' names because I want to put the animals in order, but I'm going to use their weights to help me. If I wanted to just do the numbers, the weights in order, I could do that. But I want to put the names of the animals in order from least to greatest. Okay? So quickly I am scanning, right? And I'm always starting towards the left. And I'm just going to underline 13,000, 6,000, 7,000, 2,000, 2,000. So least right now, right? I'm looking at these two. However, I see a 2 in the hundreds place and a 3 here. So the crocodile goes first. That is the least. So I'm going to put crocodile. Okay, and I'm going to cross it out. And now I need the next, obviously, which would be the giraffe, because that's still in the 2000s. Okay, and next I have 7,000, 6,000, 13,000. So the next one would be the 6,000. So that is the hippo. And these are accurate weights. All right, let's cross that out. And then we have the white rhino. Oh, I'm not going to fit, but And obviously that leaves us to the heaviest, all right, which is the largest number, but the heaviest animal, which is, I'm going to put African elephant. Okay. Now, if the question wanted me to use the numbers, then I would just go back and put all their weights under each of these animals. So it depends what the question is asking. All right. So again, to order numbers in least to greatest or greatest to least, you're using all your place value strategies, okay, and comparing strategies to put them in order. Okay, so what we're going to do is I have two examples. This is the first one, and I have another one on the next slide. You can pause this video, okay, and you could stop it, and I want you to try to answer this, okay, by yourself, and then unpause me, okay, to hear my answers. Okay, so hopefully you have chosen your answers to the question, and I will read it for you. Select a number for the box that will make a true comparison. Mark all that apply. So we're selecting a number that will go in the box. So this is the box they're referring to, all right? And it has to make it true. True comparison means correct, okay? So our answers have to be correct. And mark all that apply mean there can be more than one answer, okay? So the first thing I do is to make sure that I know what number I am dealing with. So I see this is 908,039 is greater than. And how I know that is the symbol is opened up. So this has to be the greatest one. So that means over here, I'm looking for the less than. So watch how I go through each of these, okay? So I say to myself, okay, 900, so this is the greater side. I just want to label it for you. And this side has to be the least, okay? So when I start comparing, I could do my chunking one, I can use my place value, I could use the value of digits, but the one thing we know is that right now, since they're all in the 900,000s, we're going to compare starting at the 100,000s place, right? So I'm going to use chunking. I see 908,000. So I ask myself, is 908,000 greater than 980,000? And the answer to that question is no. So I can get rid of any of the choices that start with 980,000 because we already know that 908,000 is not greater than 980. So I can get rid of, it can't be A or B, okay? So now I'm moving on and I see choice C that also starts with 908,000. So right now it's the same. Now I'm going to use my chunking. All right. So is 39 greater than 309? The answer is no. So that can't be it. Now I'm moving on to the next. Again, 908, great. Chunk it. Is 39 greater than 93? No, it is not. Okay. So then I notice something, there's a change. Here, again, we have 908, but then we have 903. And I know 908,000 is greater than 903,000. So this is going to work. Okay. Then for choice F, again, 908,000, and this is 900,000. And 908,000 is greater. So this one's going to work as well. Okay, and now there's one more problem, so I will go to the next example. Okay, and you again can pause this so that you can read the example and try it out. So you can pause now. All right, so welcome back. Hopefully you have had time to answer this question. And directions say write the name of each mountain peak in the box that describes its height in feet. U.S. mountain peaks. So we have the name of the mountain peak and its height is right next to it. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 peaks here, and their heights are in feet. All right, so let's see what they want me to do. And I know my direction says write the name of each mountain peak. So I have to make sure I'm writing their names. Okay. All right, so the first box says between 14,000 feet and 14,300. So what this means is I'm looking for a number that's greater than 14,000 but less than 14,300. So you could think of it as your start number and your end number. So 14,000, and I'm sorry, I just wrote on top of that, so I just want to erase it just a little bit. Okay. So we want to have the numbers in between 14,000, so that means it has to be greater than 14,000. And then we don't want the numbers to go past 14,300, so it can't be greater than that. Okay, so let's go through. I'm looking for numbers that are greater than 14,000 but less than 14,300. Okay. Blanca is 14,345. But that's greater than this. I don't want that. So that does not go here. Then I go to Crestone. Crestone is 14,294. That's greater than 14,000. Oh, and it's less than 14,300. So Crestone goes here. You could also think of it as a number line, right? You start number and end number. Will that number fall in between on your number line? Okay. Now I'm going to move on to Humboldt. Let's see. 14,064. Start at 14,000 and end at 14,300. Yes, it's greater than 14,000 and it's less than 14,300. So Humboldt goes here. All right, let's move on. 14,494 for Whitney. However, that number is greater than 14,300. And I remember that I cannot go past that. So it can't be greater than that. So this one is not going to work. So Whitney can't go in there. And let's see White. White Peak is 14,246. And yes, that's greater than 14,000. But less than 14,300. So I'm going to put that there. All right. So it's not saying that every mountain peak has to be used once. It's not saying that. Okay. But you will see, okay, that all of these have a place, okay? All right, so now let's look at the next directions. Now we want to go from 14,301, that's our start, and 14,500. So when we look at this, it has to be greater than 14,301, but less than 14,500. Okay, so let's go to Blanca. Blanca is 14,345. So this is greater than this number and less than this number. So we're going to write Blanca. All right. So Blanca is done. Crestone has a place. Humboldt has a place. Whitney, no. But let's look at Whitney. 14,494, which is greater than 14,301, but less than 14,500. So Whitney can go here. And last but not least, University. 14,470 is greater than 14,301, but less than 14,500. So we're going to put University here. Okay, so I would like to thank you for joining me today, and I hope this has helped you so that you can be successful at comparing and ordering numbers here in 4th grade. Thank you. Have a good day.